Hello, welcome to Captains at Center Ice podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Kessner, and today I have my friend back, Ryan, from Cardinal Sports Live, and actually they just finished up their last podcast here for the semester. Cardinal Sports Live is a college podcast, if you don't know. And Ryan, you were a part of that, correct?
Yes,
This
I
semester.
wasn't a part of the last one, but I was a part of a few that I helped edit and do. So that kept me in the loop on what was going on in hockey.
Yeah, and he was a part of the premier. They have a Premier League podcast.
Yep.
Is it still called the Kickoff?
Yes.
Okay. So it's called the Kickoff, and he was a part of that. And so, but he's also a hockey fan, Colorado Avalanche fan,
Yep.
and so we brought him back on. If you have not watched the last podcast, where we broke down our playoff brackets and what we thought's going to happen, go watch that. Um, Maybe skim through it if you don't want to sit through all of it. This podcast is going to be a lot shorter. Hopefully because we have less teams to talk about.
Yeah.
um, we have less of a bracket to talk about here. Um, but anyway, we're going to be talking about our playoff brackets, what went wrong. I have images for us, and we're gonna break down each current matchup that's going to be happening. Actually, game one starts tonight. Um, I believe it's Washington. It's Washington and Pittsburgh, and then it's if I remember, Vegas and San Jose, I think, are the two teams that are playing tonight. Or the two matchups that are playing tonight, if I remember correctly. But anyway, so they're starting tonight. We're gonna get this done before that, so you guys, so there's nothing like, oh, we're watching it. We're not doing that. We're doing it beforehand. But yeah. So we're gonna do that. As you can see right here, we have the playoff bracket, the current one, and you can see the current matchups. I will bring up our brackets here in a sec. But yeah, before I start going into brackets and stuff, Ryan, what have you thought so far about the Stanley Cup playoffs?
I thought I thought what's been highlighted has been the officiating and how poorly it's been. Um, I think they let a lot of things go. I think that's more for viewership than anything, but I still feel like they're letting too much go.
That's yeah, I think that's fair. I think there are some calls that I'm willing to, or some missed calls that I'm willing to say, okay, it's playoff hockey. And those generally get missed in playoff hockey, but there are other ones that I've been like, that was a blatant call. You should have called that. There was one in Toronto. um, I like Toronto, but there was one where Patrick Marleau like hardcore cross-checked and interfered with someone. I believe it was, if I remember correctly, it was Bergeron. But he like threw him down in the middle of the ice while the Maple Leafs were going for an empty net goal, and they ended up scoring on that empty net goal. That one should have been called. There was also one in the Philadelphia Pittsburgh game that I saw.
Yeah.
The trip. Um, I a little bit of a sell too. I will say that there. I think the Philadelphia player sold the trip a little bit too. I did see him kind of like, kick his own feet out
A
a little
little
bit too.
embellishment.
But I don't know. That was I think those were my two biggest ones that I
Yeah.
saw.
That's
Um,
that's just been a common thing that I've been seeing a little bit. It's a lot rougher than I expected because I haven't watched playoff hockey in a minute, and now that my Avs are back in it, I've noticed it's a lot rougher and they play a lot more fast paced, and the penalties are harsher too.
yeah. Well, and I will say with the penalties thing, generally in playoff hockey, the officiating gets a lot more. I don't want to say lax, but they pull back.
Loose,
Um,
loose is probably the word.
yeah, they let the players play. And there are times where that's like, okay, like I can deal with that. And there are other times I sit there and it's just like, that should have been called. I've seen officiating like this for the last 5 seasons. It's
Yeah.
not anything surprising to me. I will say, do I think it could be changed? Probably, but you also don't want to be playing in the playoffs and getting penalty after penalty after penalty after penalty. It breaks up the play too much. And sometimes that happens in the regular season. So I think that's what they're kind of going for. I don't know. I'm devil's advocate a little bit there, but yeah.
What have you noticed?
Honestly, what I've noticed is how much speed has really taken over this game. I watch teams like San Jose and Anaheim play slow, heavy, like they're good teams, but they're slow, heavy, and they play with size. And sitting there watching them play with size is great and sometimes can be exciting play, but it's a lot different than watching, like, just the difference between watching Vegas and LA play versus just those two teams. Actually, just focusing on those two teams. LA has a little bit more speed, I would say, than Vegas, or than San Jose and Anaheim. They have LA definitely has more speed than them, but they also still play with a big body. And watching them play Vegas, who played hard with speed, their team is built around speed. Watching them struggle against that was interesting to me. You also sit and watch, a 7-game series between Boston and Toronto. Both of those teams had to play with speed in order to get any sort of momentum in their games. And so I thought that was interesting as well. Yeah, I don't know. Speed has just been, I think speed has been a factor, but it's not just speed, it's also skill. Like the skill of passes, the skill of not missing opportunities. I think Eddie Olczyk said it best. Missed opportunities in the first round have plagued some of these teams, and that's why they didn't move on. Open net opportunities that just fell by the wayside because they missed the net, or they missed the puck, or whatever. So yeah, I think those are the two things I think that stuck out to me. But that being said, those are our first initial thoughts of the playoffs. Let's move on to the bracket. As you can see, like I said, current bracket up. But in a second here, I'm gonna pull up our brackets here. We'll get into the current matchups here later. So I'm pulling up Ryan's, or I'm sorry, my bracket. I'm gonna pull up my bracket here. I'll give a little bit of I'll be short and sweet with mine. So first round, as you can see, Colorado, Nashville. I said Nashville in 5 games. And they won in 6, didn't they?
Yeah, they won in 6.
Yeah, they won in 6. So I was close. Generally when I pick game length, I don't really care about game length. I just pick for the team who's going to win. So yeah, that's not really a bit importance to me. But next series I picked between Winnipeg and Minnesota. I picked Winnipeg. I think that was an obvious one for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Again, I was correct on that. Vegas, LA. I picked Vegas. And again, I was also correct on that one. That one was a little bit closer than I thought it was gonna go. But at the same time, LA. There were times LA didn't really. I don't know.
Wasn't the goal differential just above 7 or something like that?
It was literally 1 goal games the whole series. And it was interesting because Vegas. Well, I will say this: Jonathan Quick stood on his head that series, I think.
Yeah.
LA did nothing. that was kind of the thing. I don't think LA played their game. And to be honest, Vegas has more depth than what I thought they did. Watching this, and LA has less depth than I thought they did. So, that was interesting to see. Not a whole lot more or a whole lot less, just it was noticeable. Like the main players of LA were literally like 2 lines. Vegas had, I think, maybe 2.5, maybe 3, of like really deadly lines, and it was obvious. Fleury stood on his head for Vegas too. I'll give Fleury credit. Fleury did an outstanding job. But yeah, that was an interesting series to watch. The series I got wrong, which screwed up my whole bracket. Anaheim versus San Jose. I picked Anaheim in 7. I don't even want to start with Anaheim right now. I have a whole. I wrote like. I guess it's like a blog post. I haven't posted it or anything, but I just went through and wrote down all of my things that Anaheim did wrong, and it was the amount of wrong that Anaheim did in this series pissed me off. It was awful. It was just the level
Did they
of
get swept?
they got swept,
Yeah.
and it was so did LA actually.
Yeah.
But it was just one of those things. It was like, you're a better team than this. Ryan Getzlaf, shoot the puck. That's all I gotta say. Ryan Getzlaf, shoot the puck. Corey Perry, you gotta convert. John Gibson was an okay average goalie. But I will say his defense in front of him was meh. San Jose played well. I think Evander Kane is overrated.
Really?
Yeah, I think he's good. Don't get me wrong, he's good. And I think he's good enough to play in playoff type hockey. However, here's the issue with San Jose, and this is the reason they lost. One of the big reasons they lost the Stanley Cup final to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Their main offensive capabilities came from Joe Pavelski and Joe Pavelski only when they played the Pittsburgh Penguins. The current setup for the San Jose Sharks is Evander Kane and Joe Pavelski. If you can shut down both of those players, you will be fine. Anaheim actually did a decent job for a couple periods shutting down Evander Kane in pretty much every game except for game 1. And now granted they didn't do it the whole game, and other players ended up scoring. But here's the thing. The defensive depth of some of the other teams in the current setup of the playoffs, I think can shut down San Jose pretty well. San Jose is good on they're outstanding on their defense. Their offense is where it's going to be lacking, and I don't think Evander Kane helps, but they need more than just Evander Kane. And
Yeah,
Joe,
I think they have some goalie problems too with Aaron Dell, and I don't trust their goalie that well.
I don't have a problem with Jones. I think Jones is an outstanding goalie. Here's the issue with Jones. Jones reminds me of Pekka Rinne. He's more consistent than Pekka Rinne, but there are goals that he lets in that he shouldn't. And he's an easy, if you can screen the goaltender, you end up scoring on him. And here's the thing. Jones wasn't tested against Anaheim either. So we don't know I don't think we know what Jones's full true potential right now in this playoffs is. Vegas, I think, will challenge him, and if San Jose beats Vegas, which I'm not saying anything on that right now, but if San Jose beats Vegas, then they're gonna have to compete with an offensive firehouse of, I think, the Winnipeg Jets or Nashville Predators. And will they be able to do that? We don't know. So and I don't know if Jones will be able to handle that. That's kind of how I look at it. So I agree with you in the sense that I'm not sure I trust him fully to win a Stanley Cup. I trust him to go deep into the playoffs if need be. But Stanley Cup, meh, I'm not sure. But yeah, so this series I predicted to go to 7 games. Utter disappointment of a series. I was utterly pissed off. Granted, I am a Ducks fan, and I'm also a Rangers fan. Rangers aren't in this, so that's a different story. But but I'm utterly disappointed with this series, and I think a lot of people were too. I think Sharks fans and Ducks fans were expecting a 7-game series, or at least a 6-game series, and it didn't come to that. I think LA was also one of those fan bases that was like, we needed better. All right. Short and sweet down the East Coast, because I think this is pretty self-explanatory. Tampa Bay easily beat New Jersey. I don't think there was any question about that. Boston and Toronto. I picked Boston. I picked in 6 games because I wasn't sure if Toronto could pull out to 7. I was wrong on that. I thought Boston could pull out the extra win, and they did. They just went to 7 games instead of 6. So I don't know. I was cheering. Even though I picked Boston, I was kind of cheering for Toronto in this one.
Yeah.
But the offensive firepower of the Boston Bruins so far has, I think they overpowered Toronto in that regard.
Yeah, they've been kind of clicky on all cylinders right now.
Yeah, they have multiple lines that they can easily roll. They are like Tampa Bay at the current moment. And Toronto has like 2 lines.
Yeah.
And Austin Matthews, I think here's Toronto fans or people who watch this series. Austin Matthews, he's a great player. He is not an American sniper. He's a great playmaker. He's a great all-around player. He reminds me a lot of actually like John Tavares. A young John Tavares, or maybe like a young Jonathan Taves. But they put so much pressure on him to score goals because he's the captain and he's their best player. But I don't think that's the player he needs to be. Toronto needs more snipers to be around him, is kind of how I viewed it. And I think they put a lot of pressure on Austin Matthews to end up scoring goals this series.
Do you want him to be more of like a Patrick Laine?
Who, Matthews?
Yeah.
No, I want him to be more like Patrick Kane. I think he's an outstanding playmaker. I think should be that guy who's setting up plays and passing the puck and, still being a threat on the ice to score goals, but not someone who's like an Alex Ovechkin where he's like scoring 50 goals a season. That's not how I view Austin Matthews. I think he's a good player. He's a good all-around player defensively and offensively, but he's more of in general, he's more of a setting up other players kind of deal. You have players like Mitch Marner and you have other snipers on your team who I think need to be built around Austin Matthews, who Matthews can pass the puck to shoot the puck.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I view the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they just need more of that. They're a young team. You have Mitch Marner, William Nylander. I mean, I could go down the list, but that's kind of what I view. Also, Marleau was kind of in the series. He did outstanding at the beginning of the season, kind of slowly kind of like got back to like, I'm old again. Mm-hmm. So that was interesting to see. I thought if he could be more of a threat, they could have won, but I don't know. Washington, Columbus. I originally had Washington, switched to Columbus. Yeah, I got this one wrong.
And he's such the means. I just think they fell apart at the after they got comfortable.
Yeah, they had a couple miscommunications, and I think they relied a lot on Artemi Panarin, and Sergei Bobrovsky, and both of those players they played their game. I'm not gonna lie, those players played their game, but you need other players to win a series. And I will say Bobrovsky, I think in that last game, in the overtime game winner, Bobrovsky let in one that was just unfortunate. Like, it was just an unfortunate slip through. And that won the game for Washington. I will agree. I don't know. I still think Columbus could have pulled it out. It was just one of those series that was just kind of like, eh. Like, both teams were playing so mediocre that it was kind of hard to tell. So, but yeah, I got that one wrong. So it's Washington instead of Columbus. And then my next series, which I got right, I just picked the wrong amount of games, was Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, and I picked Pittsburgh. So the only two I got wrong were Anaheim and Columbus. So I only missed two. Now, granted, the rest of my bracket screwed up because I picked Anaheim to go all the way to the finals. But Tampa Bay is still in it. And I have them going all the way to the finals, and I'm still sticking to that. So the question is, who's going to win out of the Pacific? And we're going to talk about that later. So, but yeah. Ryan, let's pull up your bracket here.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start. Do you have your bracket up?
Yeah, I have it pulled up.
Okay. So, Nashville, Colorado. Let's start there.
So I picked this series out of my heart. Really, I knew Nashville was going to win, but I didn't think it would go 6 games. I thought it'd go 5 or 4. So I was glad to see it go 6, and to see Jared Bettner with the Jack Adams finalist. That's kind of cool. And so I was really happy with what the Avalanche did, and we can move on from there. But I had Nashville winning, so I got that right.
I will say, I just very quickly, Colorado played a lot better than I thought they would. I thought they were going to play better than probably what you thought, but I was not expecting the level of play they got. And especially with Varlamov out and with,
Bernier out too, and Erik Johnson out.
Yeah, I'll give them credit. They stuck to their guns, and McKinnon showed up. That was your big thing. McKinnon showed up. All right. That's all I got to say on that.
And then the Winnipeg Jets, Minnesota, I thought the Winnipeg Jets just had too much firepower for the Wild to handle with Laine, Wheeler, and company. I just thought, and then you have Connor Hellebuyck standing in the back of the net. It's just, I thought the mountain was too hard to climb for Minnesota. They did play well in one game, but other than that, it was pretty much Winnipeg all the way.
Yeah, and I see. Here's the other thing I have to say. Minnesota has a group of players who can't score.
I mean, Eric Staal.
Okay, Eric. Yeah, all right. I'll give Eric Staal credit, but Zach Parise did nothing that series.
Yeah.
Not to mention they brought in they had other players that definitely should be scoring, and they flat out don't. Who's that? Who's sweet? There's a Swedish guy on their team.
Greenway, Dumba.
I think it. I can't remember. I don't think it's either of those. But either way, like they have so many people that should be scoring and they're not.
Yeah.
Here are my 2 blames. Number 1, Bruce Boudreau. I will never, ever, 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 ever say, unless he proves me wrong, say that Bruce Boudreau will win a Stanley Cup. He'll have to prove me wrong on that. He is not a Stanley Cup winning coach. But yeah. So players like Zach Parise are non-existent on the ice. You give players like
age, and that's a really bad contract to have too. If you've seen his contract, it's bad.
What is his contract? I forget.
It's like 11 years on some.
When did he sign that?
When did he sign that?
Was it like last year or something?
No, it was like that was his contract to get him out of New Jersey.
Oh, so he's been there for probably, let's see, this was probably like 4-ish years.
Yeah, but 7 more years.
So yeah, that's ridiculous.
25 points. That's not going to get you much.
Yeah. Well, and I want to bring this up really quick. Chuck Fletcher, who's the general manager, was fired from the Wild. So
I wonder if that contract had anything to do with it.
It could be. I mean, here's the thing with Zach Parise. I think he's a good player. The team he's on doesn't match his play style.
Yeah.
In New Jersey, he was outstanding, and for good reason. And he was a scorer, and he was deadly on the ice. and Minnesota. Minnesota is a team that squanders a lot of players. Eric Stahl is an exception, but I think Minnesota squanders a lot of players.
Well,
And
you ready to go next series or?
yeah. Let's move on. So, Vegas, LA.
So I had LA and it looks like 5 games, and that turned out to be not correct at all. Vegas Knights blew my mind again after winning the Pacific and now winning a playoff series for the first time in their
Yeah,
history. So that was interesting to see.
a sweep in their history too.
Yeah. So and then going down to the next one, I had the Ducks in 7, like you did, but that didn't turn out. That was
Yeah.
almost as much wrong as the Vegas Knights LA Kings one. Though I'll say the LA Kings was at least close by each game was decided by a goal or so.
Yeah, the LA one was at least I thought LA was always in their game.
Yeah.
Anaheim was Anaheim San Jose. They weren't even games. I'm just San Jose wiped the floor with Anaheim. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't even close. So yeah, that wasn't even exciting. So, but anyway, okay. So yeah, you picked Anaheim as well.
Yep.
Um,
And then I still have the Jets in the conference in the Stanley Cup final, so that's good. But
yeah.
we'll see where that goes. Now to the Eastern Conference, everyone had Tampa Bay. I think if you had New Jersey Devils, you were either a Devils fan or you weren't just watching the playoffs.
Yeah,
So
or you didn't know you hadn't watched at all any of the
yeah,
season, which is fair. There
yeah.
are people who've done that.
Hey, but I read a NBC stat like it's the Stanley Cup playoffs have had the highest rating since 5 seasons or something like that. It's been really good.
Yeah, I think I have to give credit to the fact that Chicago is not in. And I have to give credit to certain team. The Rangers aren't in it. Teams that usually make the playoffs are no longer in it. Detroit's not in it. Yeah, it's expansion teams have made the NHL what it is today, and I think that's
Hmm.
helping. Um,
Yeah.
so
Well, going back to their series, Boston, Toronto, I had Toronto in 7, which I thought was going good. The first 2 periods of the game 7 were fine. Then third period of game 7 happened. I was like, oh, well, got that wrong.
well, you got 7 games right.
Yeah.
And I'll give you credit. You gave more faith to Toronto than I did. Um, because I picked 6, and I was picking I thought Toronto was gonna pick win the game 2 and game 3 maybe, just to push it, and
Yeah.
then Boston would come back and just win the rest. But Toronto, they had some pushback, and so
Hmm.
I'll give you credit. You gave them more credit than I did. So yeah. Anyway,
And
moving
then
on.
the Columbus Blue Jackets just fell apart. I think after winning their first 2 games, I think they were
Yeah.
kind of stunned that they took home court advantage, home ice, I guess I should say, home ice away from the Capitals. And after that, they kind of just got comfortable and fell back and just didn't, as you said, they were relying too much on Bobrovsky and Artemi Panarin. So it's like, so you can't do much with one player and a goalie.
Yeah.
You need other scorers. And Ovi showed up. I'll give him that. Ovi did show up.
I yeah, but I think he showed up against a weak Columbus team. In the games he showed up, when Columbus was playing poorly, that's when he showed up. But I'll give him credit. He still showed up. That's better than nothing. So, but yeah.
And then
Um,
the last series, I had Pittsburgh at 4, but that turned out I was impressed with the Philadelphia Flyers for pushing at 6, and for Courtier, how do you say it?
uh,
Courtois?
uh, is it is it Cody
Couture?
Couturier? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Um, I was impressed with him playing with a torn MCL. That was impressive.
He had some outstanding goals. like
Yeah.
clutch goals. Yeah. So I'll give. I will say I think we were either too far. Like we weren't like in the Philadelphia Pittsburgh series. We were either too far one or too far the other.
Yeah.
So, but we both picked Pittsburgh. So I think
Mhm.
that's the important thing. We didn't pick Philadelphia. So, but yeah. That being said, that is our current setup. As you know, now you know what we screwed up on. So, going back to the main bracket here, where you can see everything. So let's break down each of the 4 matchups here. Let's start this time. Let's start in the East. We're gonna start with Pittsburgh and Washington. Change it up a little bit. What are your thoughts, Ryan, on Pittsburgh, Washington?
Honestly, I'm so bored of this matchup. Like it's happened so many times. Like when is Ovi gonna learn? Like he won't get past Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Well, I will say Holtby actually played well in the Columbus series, so maybe it'll be more interesting.
But
So that's
you gotta give it to me. Like you gotta be bored of this series. Like
oh
how many
no, I am bored of the series. I hate this matchup, and I hate this matchup for a variety of reasons because people always try to compare Crosby to Ovechkin. First of all, if you're one of those people, they're 2 different players. You're
yeah.
comparing apples to oranges. They're not even close. Okay?
They don't
Like it's not worth comparing the 2.
Yeah, they don't play the same position. They play different styles of game. It's completely different.
Yeah. So I hate when people do that. Um it's just one of those matchups that's just like there's a lot of there's more of a safe side if you lean towards Pittsburgh in this matchup.
Yeah.
Washington, I will say this. Washington surprised me a little bit in the first round. And I think they can surprise some people in this round too. So I'm not going to rule Washington out. I'm not one of those people. I know there are Pittsburgh fans who are screaming their bloody head off right now going, how can you say that? Washington's like the most inconsistent second round team ever. Yeah, okay. But every playoff is different for me.
Yeah.
So I'll give Washington some credit. And I will say this year, at least, it looks like they have multiple lines rolling. Last year in the playoffs, they were relying so much on Ovechkin to score top corner that it was disgusting. And the year before that, they played better, but they were still relying on Ovechkin to rip the net literally. Like it's just not. It wasn't even worth it. And this year, they've been more balanced. Backstrom has actually been playing well.
Oshie.
Oh yeah, Oshie's actually had some good opportunities here. Burakovsky's been playing decent. Like I can,
can't leave out Carlson.
yeah, Carlson's been playing pretty well as well. I mean, I could go down the list, and they've been playing. Like pretty much everyone I could say is playing decent. None of them are playing outstanding. I'll say that. Well, actually, I take that back.
Holtby's kind of been okay.
Yeah.
He hasn't been. I wouldn't say mediocre because I think that's worse than okay, but I think he's just been okay.
He's been outstanding compared to last season.
Yes.
Last season in the playoffs, he was, oh my god, you could have put a trash bag in the net and you would have had better saves. Yeah, I maybe a little far. No, but he didn't play very well at all last year. And this year I will say Columbus did have some good opportunities against him, and they did push him a little bit. Here's the difference. Columbus pushed a couple games to overtimes. And they won one and then they lost one. Columbus did. And if that happens with Pittsburgh, I'm not quite sure Washington is going to be able to pull one of those out. I really, that's a really like, if Pittsburgh ends up going to an overtime, I'm leaning a lot towards Pittsburgh in that.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch game 1, and then if there's a game 7, I'll watch game 7 because I'm just so bored. Like,
Fair. I think that's fair. It'll be interesting to see how this matchup plays out this year. Because I think, quite honestly, Pittsburgh's playing mediocre too, compared to what they did 2 years ago and last year. I think Pittsburgh's playing mediocre, but they're good enough to go. It's just, I don't know. That's my thoughts on it.
mm-hmm.
So so between out of this matchup, I know you're bored with this matchup, so we'll keep it quick. Who do you think is gonna win? And give a game count. You don't. It's not really gonna matter.
I'll give Pittsburgh in 6.
Fair. I say that's a fair pick. I think I lean the same way. Pittsburgh in 6. What are your reasons for Pittsburgh and why in 6?
I think Washington can squeak out maybe a couple games at home, and then Pittsburgh will say, "Hey, you took a couple games, but we're Pittsburgh Penguins. We have Sidney the Kid Crosby, Evander Malkin, Matt Murray. I just think it's too much, and their defense is stellar."
Fair. Here's how I think. I think Washington steals a couple games here and there, but they're going to be sporadic and they're not going to get any momentum doing it. And I think Pittsburgh just overall, I mean, you got Malkin, who's played outstanding so far. Well, I shouldn't say he's played decent. Because he could be playing better. He's been playing decent. Gensel's actually playing decent as well. Phil Kessel's been playing decent. Not the Pittsburgh Penguins team that we have seen in last year or the year before.
And Phil Kessel hasn't been the Phil Kessel that he was in the Olympics either. So
yeah, true. So I think offensively Pittsburgh is more deep.
Yeah,
and that's kind of where I land on that. And I don't think Washington's going to be able to handle that because Washington's going to have to outscore Pittsburgh.
And then we didn't even talk about Rick. Is Rick Nash on that team, or is that the?
No,
Boston
he's on Boston.
I always mix them up.
They're both yellow and black.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I don't. And Washington, Ovechkin has to be on his A game literally every game. And other offensive players like not Backus, Backstrom. Backstrom's gonna have to be playing well, scoring goals. I mean, literally, and Oshie's gonna be having scoring goals. Like, if Washington wants to win the series, which I think they can, I will give them credit. I think they can. They're gonna have to have offensive potential from all their players, every game, and I just don't know if I can. I don't know if I can trust them on that right now. So for both of us, Pittsburgh in 6. Let's move on. Let's go to Tampa Bay and Boston. Now, this is an interesting matchup, I think. But what are your thoughts?
This one I'm kind of excited for. Yeah, I want to see the offensive prowess of Tampa Bay versus the offensive prowess of Boston because I think both of them have been hitting on all cylinders, and their power plays have been stellar. So I'm really excited to see this one. I think Vasilevsky gets them through. I think Vasilevsky is better than Tuukka at this moment, and I think that's why I think Tampa Bay pulls it out in 7.
Interesting. I'm leaning. I think I'm gonna go Tampa Bay in 6. Tampa Bay has home ice advantage. I'm not really quite sure I'm gonna give Boston all that much credit when it comes to playing at away games. I think they struggled playing in Toronto. And Toronto was a way less deep team than Tampa Bay. I think home ice advantage is a major deal for Tampa Bay in this series, because I think it affects Boston. I say Tampa Bay in 6. I think it'll be a struggle for Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is deeper defensively, I think, and I think Tampa Bay is pretty on par offensively with Boston. I
Yeah.
think they're both equal in that regard. I will agree with you on this in this statement though, like you said, Vasilevsky is the better goaltender. No matter who Boston's goaltender is, Vasilevsky is the better goaltender, and I think we've seen that so far. Doesn't mean that. Go ahead.
No, you're good.
Okay. I think Vasilevsky is definitely the better goaltender. I think he's the quicker goaltender. I think he's better at reading plays, and I credit that to Tampa Bay's defense too. I just think Tampa Bay's the deeper team. They've been playing better. Nikita Kucherov. There was a goal against New Jersey in that last game that was from the blue line. It was literally just a wrist shot, and I was like, really?
Yeah.
I think they're incredible. I think Tampa Bay takes this in 6. But I can see a 7-game series. I just think Tampa takes it in 6. Definitely not an easy series for either team, though.
No, I would have to agree with that.
I think Boston has to play a speedy style, if they want to beat Tampa Bay. Yeah, let's talk about that. What do you think Boston has to? What do you think Boston has to do in order to win in this series? Because we both think Tampa Bay takes it on paper.
I think they have to shut down Nikita Kucherov and Stamkos for sure. It was Stamkos playing in. I didn't follow the series in Tampa.
Yeah, he was playing. Yeah, he was
okay.
playing.
Okay, I think they need to shut down Stamkos and Nikita Kucherov, but it's going to be hard.
Yeah. The other thing is I think Patrice Bergeron's going to have to start scoring a lot more goals. And Brad Marchand has been playing outstanding for Boston.
Mm-hmm.
He's the only player that I would probably throw that player in. That everyone else has been playing like decent, like better decent than like Washington or Pittsburgh. Like definitely good enough to get to where they are, but still like inconsistent. David Pasternak's been inconsistent. Miller's been inconsistent. Like I could go down the list. Brad Marchand's
kind of worried about Zdeno Chara. He's kind of old.
True.
He's old. I think he's the third pairing on the D line maybe right now.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of worried about that.
If you're Tampa Bay, do you exploit that?
Oh, I would. I would try to at least test him out and see how he's doing skating wise.
Yeah. I think I would do the same thing. I think he would be one of the pressure points that I start to push. So I would be
sad to see because he was such a great player for the NHL and everything, great role model and everything like that.
I think it's just an age thing, quite honestly. And I will say when he won the Stanley Cup, it was the verge of the NHL changing from size to speed. I think that was, and so now he's kind of at the beginning of where speed is the new thing, the new fad in the NHL. And so now he has to deal with that. I will give him credit. He's still in the NHL. And he just signed a contract with Boston, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he signed a 1-year contract extension.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. Definitely still a threat on the ice. I'm not taking that away from him.
He had a sick goal off the goalie mask of the New Jersey Devils. That was kind of funny.
You mean the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Oh, the Toronto Maple Leafs, yeah.
Yeah, he has a cannon of a shot. It's hilarious. Hilarious to watch. Because people can't react to it. All right. So you said Tampa in 7. I say Tampa in 6.
Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm leaning. I think a closer series than Washington Pittsburgh. Definitely a closer series all the way through. Even if it's only like 5 games, I say like overtime game level excitement on. I'm gonna be watching this series for sure.
Oh, me too.
Also, well, no, I'll talk about that after. Let's
Do we
see.
start with
Nashville.
Predators and Jets, or
Yeah, Nashville, and Winnipeg. Who do you have for that?
I have the Winnipeg Jets, and
Okay.
this is the reason why. Nashville was going against a depleted Avalanche team. They didn't have Varlamov, and they didn't have Hammond. They had to pull a third string goaltender, um, and we didn't have our star defenseman Eric Johnson. So to win like that in 6 games is a little worrisome to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we could have taken it 7 games had we won game two. Like, it was close, and so I feel like I'd be worried if I was a Nashville Predators fan, very worried, because the Avalanche don't go 2 lines deep like the Winnipeg Jets do.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, I mean, Winnipeg has like 2 lines of Nathan McKinnon's.
Yeah,
It's insane. I here's the issue with Nashville, I think. The issue with Nashville is they're stacked in terms of the amount of players that they have for depth that they can pull from. The problem is Ryan Johansson and Philip Forsberg are your two scorers. Those are your two players. And if I can shut them down, I shut down Nashville.
yeah,
We saw this last year, and Johansson was taken out of a lot of series. And to say this, Nashville really wasn't in a whole lot of danger, I don't think, really, until they got to the Stanley Cup final. All the other teams just were they were minor inconveniences to Nashville. They didn't really test Rene. They didn't really have defenses to put up with their offense and whatnot. This year, I think teams have learned that, and I think Winnipeg's able to stop that. So the key to Winnipeg winning this series, which I think they're going to win, is shutting down Philip Forsberg and Ryan Johansson.
yeah.
Specifically, go ahead.
I think they'll win in 6.
Fair. Yeah, I think I would go 6 or 7. I'm leaning more towards the 6. But I could definitely see this one. I could see going 7. A lot easier than some of the others. Just because I think both teams play really inconsistently. In the respect of playing each other. Nashville's stronger defensively, and I think goaltending wise, they're probably about equal. But I think Winnipeg is stronger offensively. So I think this series, with what is going to end up happening, is that Winnipeg and Nashville are going to go back and forth in terms of winning games.
Yeah.
And so that's why I could see it going to a game 7 a little bit easier. That's kind of how I look at it. I don't know about you.
The way I see it is they'll alternate games, and then game 5 the Jets will take it. Then game 6 the Jets will also take that one. I see that's where they win 2 in a row.
Okay, fair. The advantage goes to Nashville in this series in terms of home ice advantage.
Yes.
So Winnipeg is going to have to steal. They have to steal either game 1 or game 2,
which I think is doable. I think they could do both.
It is.
I think they can do both if they really play on their game, and if Connor Hellebuyck has been playing as well as he has been, I think he can. I think he can steal 2 games for them.
Sorry. Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I definitely think it's possible. I think the offensive firepower could definitely steal. I mean, we saw Colorado. They stole a game out in Nashville, didn't they?
Yeah, they stole game 5.
Yeah, so they stole. So it's possible, and I think Winnipeg has a better shot at doing it than Colorado did. So That's why I think it's definitely possible here. So you say Winnipeg in 6. I say Winnipeg in 6 as well. I'll lean towards 6, but I could see it going 7. But I'll say 6 for this. Anything else on this matchup before we move on?
Not really.
Same here. All right. Next matchup. Vegas and San Jose. All right.
Okay, I'm gonna I have to go with Vegas Knights. I'm done trying to say this is just a fluke. I'm done with it. I can't stand it. Like I'm ready to give up and just ride the bandwagon.
Fair.
I can't go against them.
How many games?
I want to say seven, but I want to say seven, but my mind's telling me 5 games.
5. All right. I think I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Vegas as well. That's not the doubt in my mind. I think I'm gonna go Vegas. I don't know on the amount of games though, because I haven't watching Vegas play LA is one series, and I haven't seen Vegas play before in the playoffs. So there's a little bit of hesitation on how many games I want. You know what? I'll be gutsy like you. I'll go 5.
Yeah.
Um, I think San Jose takes one, but I gotta give Vegas credit. I gotta give Vegas
Yeah,
credit, and
I can't. I thought this whole season was a fluke. I thought them playing the Kings was a bad matchup and everything, but
yeah.
they've proved me wrong, and I'm sick of being proved wrong. So I'm just gonna go with them. And if I'm wrong, then I'm like, okay, finally the fairy tale ending has ended.
Yeah. I think what are your keys to this matchup?
I think it's gonna be speed versus physicality.
Yeah,
Like
I agree.
like we said, it's gonna be what kind of speed can Vegas offer, and can the speed beat the physicality, or can it get past the physicality? It's one of those things.
Yeah. I think goaltending is also going to be a key. Um if
Matt
Flurry's
Murray's been playing off his head right now.
you mean Flurry?
Flurry, yeah,
Yeah, Flurry, yeah, if Flurry is playing how he played last series, goodbye San Jose. I just got to say it, goodbye San Jose. Um the other thing is I have to give credit where credit is due to the amount of players that have scored for the Vegas Golden Knights.
mm-hmm.
Granted, they haven't scored a lot of goals in the last series, but they were from players all over the team. It wasn't just James Neal every game or
Yeah,
Carlson every game, or
yeah.
like it was all over. And I don't know. I gotta give Vegas credit. I think Vegas is they have the one of the best home crowds I think I've seen. At least on TV. I've not been there, but
Yeah.
when you see their stadium, there are a lot of I think there are a lot of loyal fans there now.
No, I think there is. We all were worried about it. Was it going to be tourists? Was it
Yeah,
going to be? Was it what kind of fan base were they going to have? But I think they've really showed up, and they've really gotten behind the team with the costumes and everything. If you've seen them on NHL Network or something like that, they've really gotten into it.
yeah. Well, and I have to say their team is growing on me a little bit. Their
Yeah,
current team, at least how they're playing, is growing on me a little bit. So I gotta give credit where credit is due. I think Vegas. I'll be ballsy with you. I'll go 5.
yeah,
And you know what? I think I'm gonna change my Nashville, Winnipeg one. I think I'm gonna go 7 on that one.
Oh, I thought you were changing your pick. I was like,
No, no, no,
oh,
no. I'm sticking with
I'm
I'm
like,
not changing my picks. I'm gonna go 7 games instead. I don't know. The more I think about it, I'm like, maybe 7. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
yeah,
It's a games. It's the pick that matters to me.
yeah.
So yeah. So okay. So we have Vegas, Winnipeg, Tampa Bay, and Pittsburgh. We all agreed on that.
Mm-hmm.
So let's all right. So out of our picks, between we'll start in the East and we'll work our way up. I wish I had a way to show the audience this, but so I'll pull up your bracket actually. So
Yeah, because mine's pretty much the final four.
yeah, so you still have Winnipeg going all the way. At least on your bracket, that's a possibility. And you have Tampa Bay going all the way. Actually, your matchup is Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh in the quarterfinal or in the conference finals. I'm sorry, and then you have Winnipeg, and then you had LA. But
Yeah.
so do you still agree with that matchup in the Eastern
Yes, I
Conference
do.
final? Okay,
I think.
so are you still going with Tampa Bay all the way to the final?
Yeah.
Okay. You have Winnipeg going all the way to the final. I'm assuming you're sticking with that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Who do you think is going to win between San Jose? Well, you said Vegas. That's right. So you have Vegas and Winnipeg instead of LA. So solid matchup, I think here.
Yeah.
Between your picks and going with Tampa Bay, not a bad choice at all.
No.
Okay. So going off that, I'll pull up my bracket. Outside of Anaheim and Columbus getting to the conference final, I'm gonna say Pittsburgh, and Tampa Bay, like I said, and then Tampa Bay, I think can beat Pittsburgh. I think they're deeper offensively than Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And Winnipeg and Vegas, I don't know. That's a matchup that I just don't know. I gotta go with Vegas on this one.
I don't think I get James Neal and Carlson, but I just think with Paul Stastny, Patrick Laine, Blake Wheeler, I think it's too much, and I think
Fair.
it's too much for them. I think it goes 7 games, but I think it's Winnipeg would have home advantage, right? Or would Vegas?
Vegas would.
Well, I still think Winnipeg pulls it out in 6.
Fair. But I mean,
And I think playoff experience will help around that.
That I will agree with. At least as a team, together as a team, yeah, I would agree with that. Vegas does have playoff experience. They're just all over the board.
Yeah.
I still think I'm gonna go with Vegas. I don't know. Goaltending is the issue with Winnipeg, and defense is the issue with Winnipeg.
You really think goaltending's the issue with Connor Hellebuyck?
Yeah. It's not like this year. It's not as big of an issue as it used to be. And Hellebuyck has definitely stepped up his game. Defensively, Winnipeg has always been kind of, they're decent is the best way to describe it defensively. The big upgrade that they had this year is offense, and I will fully acknowledge that. Vegas, I think, can pull out the win. Goaltending is the only issue with Winnipeg, in my opinion, and it's not as big of an issue as it used to be. I will give them credit where credit is due. Their goaltending is much better than where it used to be. It's just their goaltending is just like, it's just inconsistent.
Yeah,
that's how I've always looked at it.
I think I just have to tend to agree because I believe he's the Vezina finalist, and with 48 wins, I believe that he had, I think stands for itself.
Fair. So I'm gonna go with Vegas. Yeah, I'm going with Vegas.
How many games?
I think it goes to a lot of games. I think I could see a game 7. I think Vegas in 7. And I think they're gonna be close games because I think like we saw with Vegas and LA where there were 1-goal games. I think it's the same thing with Winnipeg and Vegas. I think it's the same.
Really? You think it's one, but high scoring or low scoring?
I think it's low scoring.
Really?
Yeah, 1 to 2 goal games. I don't. Vegas is not. I don't know. That's how I see them. Um,
That's how I see Vegas, but I just don't see the Winnipeg Jets being limited to 1 or 0 goals.
I do, and I think it'll be because of Fleury.
Yeah.
I think Vegas's defense is on par with Winnipeg, but I think
Okay.
Fleury is the better goaltender. So if you pair those two together, I think Vegas wins in the defensive battle for that. That's kind of my reasoning behind it. Offensively, you're correct. I think Winnipeg is better offensively, unless Vegas starts to step up their offensive game, because we've seen Vegas where they're just as deadly as Winnipeg.
Yeah. I mean, the matchups against the Islands, they score like 5 goals.
Yeah, and keep in mind they also played against a strong Jonathan Quick. I will give Jonathan Quick credit on that. They definitely played against a strong Jonathan Quick who stood on his head for LA. So, and Vegas, it wasn't like Vegas just wasn't shooting the puck or getting any chances. They had good chances in that. It was just, I don't know. That's kind of how I look at it. A little bit of a struggle to score, but that's fine. Keep in mind, I think the amount of rest that they've had is a little bit better on them than it is on
Yeah.
Winnipeg. Now, granted, Winnipeg has also had some rest, so I'm not discounting that. I don't know. I think Vegas in 7. That's kind of where I land. So I think Vegas can get to the final. They will not beat Tampa Bay though.
No.
There's no way they'll beat Tampa Bay. Um, Tampa Bay. In my mind, Tampa Bay has the cup.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay has the cup this year.
I think it's
Um,
definitely theirs to lose.
Yeah. And to be fair, I will say this. Tampa Bay does have teams to push to challenge them. Pittsburgh and Boston, I think, are the two teams that will definitely push Tampa Bay to the limit. And if they can survive those tests, Tampa Bay is definitely the winner. Um that's where I land on this. Now I don't know. Say I'm gonna go down this road. Let's say Nashville ends up going all the way to the final again, which is possible. Um, I still don't think that they can win the cup again, or again.
No.
I don't think they can win the cup, and they're considered the deepest team in the league. And I'm pretty sure they won the President's Trophy. So
No, the Predators won the
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Nashville won
Oh, okay.
Nashville won the President's Trophy. So there's a little bit of that bad luck, if you know what I mean. But no, I'm just I don't know. They're considered the deepest team in the league right now. Nashville is, and I don't see them beating Tampa Bay. Like I just don't. Tampa Bay is they're outstanding. John Cooper's an outstanding coach. Uh, top 5 goaltender, top 5 coach in the league in my opinion. He
Yeah.
is he with even I've said this, I've liked him as a coach since they went to the finals against Chicago. I think he's a top 5 coach. And he might be 5th, I don't know. I haven't really sat down and determined. I think he's a top 5 candidate for me. And he's an outstanding coach. And I'll give him this. Stamkos is healthy, and that's helping. So, but anyway, um, those are my thoughts
Yeah.
on this. I think Tampa Bay wins the cup this year. I have another bracket for those of you watching. I have another bracket that I made where same exact matchups, except I think I had Washington going instead of Columbus. But anyway, but I had Tampa Bay winning the cup. I just didn't use it because I was more ballsy using Anaheim. But I think Tampa Bay wins it this year. I don't know. What about you? You're still on the Tampa Bay?
Yeah, I think Tampa Bay has just been rolling, and I think they've been proving it all season long that they're the team to beat in the East and the West. So I think it's theirs to lose, barring any injuries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you still sticking with you have Winnipeg and Tampa Bay? You have 37 goals scored in the Stanley Cup final. You still up with that?
I'd probably lower the goals to about 25, 29, somewhere
Okay,
between that range.
fair. I don't. I think. What did I pick? 35. Yeah, I picked 35. So I think I'm gonna stick with my. I think above 30 for sure. Um, yeah, maybe like 33.
Yeah.
35 is on the high side, but maybe like 32, 33 in that range.
Hmm.
I if Winnipeg and Tampa Bay get to the final on that matchup, I think there's going to be a lot of goals scored.
Yeah.
If not, then it's a different story.
Hmm.
Then like maybe if Vegas or San Jose or Nashville get there, then it's I think I don't know. I think it's a little bit lower on those teams. But that's just my thoughts and opinions on that. So,
Yeah.
um all right. Well, this was actually pretty productive and we're
Hmm.
about out of time here. So, yeah, for those of you watching, leave your comments down below. How'd your bracket turn out? Was it broken like ours? Um, yeah, leave a comment. Who do you think's gonna win? Like, comment, subscribe, that sort of thing. Ryan, do you have any plugs you want to throw in?
No, I don't. I'm kind of since the Avalanche are out, the podcast is going to be on a hiatus till probably free agency starts around.
Okay.
So check out Forsberg Winter Wonderland when free agency starts around because I want to see who they sign and if we like the picks or not.
Okay. Well,
Because I think the free agency is kind of deep this year.
I honestly haven't looked at free agency, and it wouldn't surprise me if it is. I haven't even touched free agency at all.
Well, I'll just give you a highlight. James Van Riemsdyk is up for. John Carlson is up. John Tavares is up. Those are the top three, pretty much.
Is Eric Carlson's also up?
No, he's up for second. He's I think he's an RFA at the least,
Oh,
or I
okay.
believe he has one more year.
No, maybe. I just remember seeing that they're trying
Wait,
to sign him to a
Carlson from Vegas or Eric Carlson from Ottawa?
from Ottawa.
Ottawa, yeah, he has another year on his contract.
Okay, so but they're still gonna end up pushing him to trying to sign with Ottawa probably. So
Yeah.
that'll be a storyline too.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this year will be interesting. I think Tavares and Carlson are the two that I'll be keeping an eye out for.
Yeah, John Carlson will be. I would love to have him.
Yeah. Um, and it'll be interesting to see what teams do in the off season. See, and coaching. See, coaching is another issue that I think I'm going to be paying attention for. The Rangers just fired Vigneault. I think the Ducks are going to fire Carlisle.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I really don't think he did all that great as a coach this
Yeah.
year. He was on a 1 year contract. I think he gets fired. The question is,
Does he get fired, or do they just choose not to resign him? That's the.
I think
I
they
think.
just choose. I think they just choose not to re-sign him, and then
Yeah, I think that's the better route to go.
yeah, and then and then because his contract's already up, his
Yeah.
contract just ended, so um, they just don't resign him, and then they find another coach. I think that's what Anaheim does. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with New York, like both New York teams, because there's some controversy going on out there with the Islanders and Snow being with the GM issue with well both teams really, but
Well, how do you not sign Tavares? I mean, come on.
well and I don't know. I don't want to get it all up in that, but I think it's in Tavares's court. I think
Yeah.
Tavares. I think the Islanders clearly want to keep him, but Tavares has to decide whether he wants to stay. If I'm Tavares, I'm gonna say this. If I'm Tavares, I leave the Islanders.
Yeah, I would too. I
There's
don't see them pushing for a playoff spot anytime soon.
why would you stay on a team that is not? There's no way You cannot tell me that the Islanders are going to win a cup anytime soon.
Yeah.
On their current builds. That, like, unless they make some really random drastic changes that I don't see them doing, because I don't see Snow doing that at all. There's no way. If you're Tavares and you want to win a Stanley Cup, you leave the Islanders.
Yeah.
You don't. Team loyalty means nothing at that point. I think he's been with the Islanders for how long, and he hasn't gotten anywhere.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's me. I think if you're Tavares, you look at teams that are speedy, and you look at teams where you can make a difference, but you also look at teams where you're surrounded by players who will help you, and you're not surrounded by two lines the whole entire season or a line and a half. So I don't know. I don't want to get all up in that one, but I can talk about that later.
Yeah.
For sure. So yeah, that is our bracket. Or us analyzing the bracket.
So for you, it's Vegas Knights versus Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay winning. And for me, it's the Winnipeg Jets and Tampa Bay winning.
Yeah. The Vegas Winnipeg series, I think, is too hard to really truly predict. But
Yeah.
I'm jumping on the Vegas bandwagon here. And not bandwagon in the sense of like, oh, I'm rooting for you. Like, just in the sense of
We're just done trying to prove them wrong. I'm done doing that crystal ball.
Yeah.
Like, how many times do we say this can't last? This cannot last in our podcast in CSL?
Yeah. And quite honestly, well, and I thought it did die off coming into February. I thought they did die off because they had lost a couple games, and I was like, okay, maybe this is the beginning of the end. And then I knew they were going to make the playoffs, and I still I'll stick to my guns here, where at the time, I thought that they were going to struggle in the playoffs. I thought teams were going to understand their strategy immediately and whatnot. And I was proven wrong. If any team out of the Pacific is going to beat them, it's going to be it was going to be LA. So I don't think San Jose can do it. And if any team out of the Central is going to do it, it's either Winnipeg or it's probably either Winnipeg or Nashville. So, I mean, and both those teams are in the second round. So it's possible that they're going to get knocked out in the conference final. That's kind of where I'm leaning. They could get knocked out this round. It won't surprise me if San Jose wins. But I'm gonna go with Vegas all the way through. That's just kind of where I'm at. I don't know. Vegas is a story, and we'll have to keep up with it.
It's a story, but I'm kind of sick of them proving everyone wrong. Like,
I want to see what happens with Seattle.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, so I'll end up having to do a podcast talking about them, seeing what happens.
I think the Avalanche will give up Tyson Barrie to them.
I see. Tyson Barrie. I think he could be a useful player for you guys in the future.
Have you seen his defensive lapses though? They're bad.
True, but I will give Tyson Barrie this credit. He's very young.
Yeah,
and he's in the NHL. I mean, here's the thing: Nathan MacKinnon, for the first 3 seasons of his career, was eh.
Well, the first season wasn't too bad. 69 points.
Okay, yeah, but it wasn't until really after the World Cup where he actually started to step up. Well, that was when he started it, and then he fully came into where he is now until when they traded Duchesne. So I think Colorado did the right move by holding on to some players. Now,
for sure.
I will say Sakic is really bad about certain things, and defense is one of them. And for all I know, maybe Tyson Barrie should be traded. But I say give him a season or two.
Sam Girard turned out well. I'll say that.
True. And I think there's potential in your team. You just have to build around it.
Yeah.
and you just have young talent. You're similar to Toronto in that respect, I think. So I mean, you look at some of the teams. You look at the Rangers doing a complete rebuild. You look at Boston ended up pretty much rebuilding. They didn't do a complete rebuild, but they did a rebuild. And then you have Detroit. They're trying to get a rebuild, although they're doing
that
poorly.
Central Division though in the Western Conference is going to be tough next year. Tough.
I think it'll be tough, but it'll be tough I see the Central Division is weaker than what it used to be.
Really? You have the Jets, the Predators, the Avalanche, the Blackhawks might come back, and you have the Wild and Dallas.
Chicago has to prove something to me. They have to prove they need more players. And I mean like actual Patrick Sharp's gone now, which he didn't do anything this season. Sorry, Blackhawks fans, but that's the truth. He was non-existent on the ice. Taves and Kane. Kane was the only player for Chicago that actually showed up. Mm-hmm. Crawford was injured, so I'll give him a pass. So, but Kane was the only one who actually showed up. Saad was and Taves was bleh.
Yeah.
Taves was not Jonathan Taves. Or at least the ones that we've seen in years past.
Mm-hmm.
If Winnipeg is able to come back and play this way consistently next year, and Colorado comes back with their fire, and then let's say Chicago comes back, then I would consider Central Division being the second toughest division in the league.
Yeah.
Tied for first would probably I'd probably go with the Atlantic. I used to say the Metropolitan, but now it's pretty much 2 teams in the Metropolitan. 3. Columbus, Washington, and Pittsburgh. With the Rangers and the Islanders out of it and whatever. But in the Atlantic, you got Toronto, you got Boston, you got Tampa Bay, you got New Jersey. Florida made a push there. I think Atlantic is the strongest division, at least this season. Yeah. And I think next season there's a possibility for that too. I don't know. Central's still strong. Don't get me wrong. The weakest division is definitely the Pacific.
Yeah.
That's I fully stand by that. The weakest division is the Pacific. And it could have been stronger if Edmonton had played better, and if Vegas continues to play better, and Edmonton continues to play better, then it gives a run for Anaheim and LA and San Jose for their money to get in a playoff spot. Then I think the Pacific could be one of the stronger divisions. But until that's not going to happen. So, anyway, like I said, for those of you watching, I hope you guys enjoyed.
Yeah, we just had a side round next season.
No, a future podcast for you guys tuning in. Won't be doing another podcast until this series until after these rounds are done. Ryan, thank you for coming on. As always, welcome to come back. Where can they find you on Twitter or Instagram?
RM Cost.
RM Cost. Okay. And then what's your YouTube channel for your or your SoundCloud or whatever for your
it's a Peter Forsberg Winter Wonderland.
Forsberg Winter Wonderland. All one word?
Yep.
Okay. So feel free to go check him out on SoundCloud and on YouTube, correct?
Yes.
Okay, on both. Talking about Colorado Avalanche.
Yep.
So yeah, feel free to check him out. With that being said, I know that ending was a lot longer than it should have been, so I'm going to end it now. And I will talk to you guys later. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.
That was fun.
Yeah.